Hello and welcome to another edition of Investing for Generations. And today I want to make another analysis of another stock of my watch list. And this time it's the hard-hitting Boeing. Boeing is one of the most traded stocks also in the Robinhood app. It's number 18 there, and right now there are over 300,000 users of Robinhood holding this company. And in this video, I will give you my opinion if Boeing is a good buy right now or maybe not. And I will go through all the problems Boeing is facing right now and then come to a conclusion if Boeing right now is on a fair price or maybe on sale. Let's go. So Boeing is one of the two main manufacturers of airplanes. There are almost just two in the market with Boeing and Airbus. They have a big moat and there's a very high entry hurdle into this market because it's not so easy just to take some money and then build airplanes. And this is of course what also Warren Buffett liked. He just said a good business is like a strong castle with a deep moat around it. And I want sharks in the moat. I want it untouchable. And with these airplane manufacturer, you have a really big moat. But what happened then lately with Boeing? As a lot of the companies in the aviation industry, also the manufacturer crashed with the pandemic situation and the standstill in all of the sector. But that's not the only reason Boeing have big problems. When we look back, we also know they have the 737 MAX, their flagship, but they have a lot of problem with that also lately after two very big crashes. The first crash was on October 29th, 2019 with Lion Air, and then just a little bit later on March 10th, 2019, a flight of Ethiopian Airlines also crashed just a few minutes after takeoff, and after that the 737 just was grounded. That of course is a big disaster, and these problems are not really figured out until now. So that alone is a real big problem for Boeing. Plus the pandemic situation, of course, it makes it even worse. And so we had a cancellation of orders in the first half of 2020 of 355 737 MAX. The deliveries sank also by 71% to just 70 planes in the first half of 2020. And this, of course, is not a lot. With all these problems, just take a look at the financial numbers of Boeing. And when we take a look at the revenue of Boeing over the last 5 years, we just can see that the revenue sank drastically and there is not much over of revenue. So this of course is terrible, and this is just because of the pandemic of course, and then also of the grounding of the 737 MAX. So all comes together. And also when we take a look at the earnings per share, we see that in the last few quarters Boeing just burned money. And of course with all these losses in the last quarters, the question becomes how strong financially is Boeing, and therefore just take a look at the balance sheet. And when we look on the balance sheet, the first thing I mentioned, big jump in the long-term debt. This is really a lot. This is from $33 billion to now $58 billion. And the reason for that is that Boeing just raised $25 billion in a bond sale. $25 billion they raised, just give them a little bit time and buy them a little bit of time. And with that said, we can see that the cash position lately rised and they have a lot of cash in hand, like $32 billion right now. And with that, also the current ratio looks not that bad. It's at 1.41. So Boeing is not on the verge of bankruptcy. But of course, there are difficult times and they have to turn around this ship very soon. But after all, of course, the balance sheet is solid and give them a little bit time to just turn it around. And there are also some positive sides of that. 30% of the revenue of Boeing come from defense, space, and security systems. All of that just come from the US government. Boeing is very important for the US government and a big player. And so they won't let them down for sure. That's a big point. That's, of course, a big plus point for Boeing. And then also, next to the 737 MAX disaster and the pandemic situation, overall aviation sector will grow even more over the next few decades. Of course, Boeing will be one of the winners of that growth. So there are very positive points in the long term, but in the short term, they just have to turn around this thing, and first of all, their planes have to fly again. There's a lot of work to do, but in the long term, when they can survive, and I think they will survive, that could be an even brighter future. And with all these said, just take a look at the current price and come to a conclusion if Boeing can be a good investment, even a good long-term investment, maybe. And per Yahoo Finance, they say Boeing will grow over 12% over the next 5 years. And this is the same picture as with the growing of the aviation sector at all. Put this into the calculation of the fair value and just remember and keep in mind these 12%. And then just go over to the fair value calculator, as you hopefully already know as you are my subscriber. And if you don't know, just be a new subscriber. I use the discounted cash flow or the discounted earnings method to calculate the fair value of a company. And therefore, we first of all have to put in the growth rate of the future, and there I put it in the 12% from the estimates of Yahoo Finance. Then we have to put in the discount rate. This is the expected return of the investment. So my expected return of the investment. This is also 12%. And then we have a terminal growth rate because we calculate for the next 20 years, and the 12% growth rate we put in first was for the first 10 years, and 6% is for the second 10 years. And because nobody knows exactly how much the growth rate will be in 10 years or 15 years, just let be a little bit conservative and put in 6%. And then, of course, if you use this calculation and you put in the latest numbers of Boeing with the losses, this would be impossible to calculate a fair value, because if you have a loss and calculate in the future, there will be still a loss. I think if you believe in Boeing and if you believe there is a good future, a bright future, then of course you have to look into the last year maybe, when the company runs on all cylinders, and this was 2018. And therefore I put it in the EPS of 2018, of the full year 2018, of $17.85. And hopefully Boeing will come back to normal businesses sooner or later. So maybe that's a fair point to take this for a calculation. So, and with this $17.85 earnings per share, you come to a calculation of a fair value of $312. And with a current price of $170, you would have a margin of safety of almost 50%. This would tell you that maybe this is a good point to buy into Boeing, at least when you believe in the future, and if you believe that Boeing is able to fly his jets again and to sell his jets again. It's risky, of course, because nobody knows how long this pandemic situation will hold on. And the other thing is also nobody really knows what happened to the 737 MAX problem. Maybe it's worth to put in a little bit money, at least in the long term, because there are some positive signs but of course also a lot of problems at this moment. So what's my conclusion then? With Boeing, we have one of the two top airplane manufacturers with a big moat, a strong market position. But of course, with a lot of problems right now with the pandemic and also with the grounding of a 737 MAX. So there can be a bright future when they are able to come back to normal business. But if they can't, and if they can't soon, things can be worse, of course. So my conclusion for me personally is I will not take the risk to buy into Boeing, but maybe just because I'm already bought into Airbus. I have my stake in Airbus in my German or European portfolio, and I bought in there in the depth of the pandemic situation, and I'm up already a little bit over 20%. First of all, I really believe in this sector. I think the aviation sector is a sector with a growth in the future, even with the pandemic and with the problems of the pandemic. But after all, everything will go back to normal sooner or later, and then the aviation sector will grow. And I just decided for Airbus because, of course, they also have the problem with the pandemic, but overall, they look the more solid company for me right now. And so I decided for Airbus. That's my opinion on Boeing right now. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, or let me just know your opinion. So that's it for today. If you liked the video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's reach the 200 subscriber mark by this weekend. And ring the notification bell to never miss another video. So see you then, the next time, then with another video of another stock out of my watch list. See you then, take care, bye bye.